fullness of God on the lips of women. To rebuke the covetous, the painter would show to the life the devils pouring molten gold down the throat of bishop or abbess who had commissioned some work from him and then scamped his pay. This is why the demons in those days were bitter enemies of the painters, and above all of the Florentine painters, who surpassed all the rest in subtlety of wit. Chiefly, they reproached them with representing them under a hideous guise, with the heads of bird and fish, serpents' bodies, and bats' wings. This sore resentment which they felt will come out plainly in the history of Spinello of Arezzo. Spinello Spinelli was sprung of a noble family of Florentine exiles, and his graciousness of mind matched his gentle birth, for he was the most skilful painter of his time. He wrought many and great works at Florence, and the Pisans begged him to complete Giotto's wall paintings in their Campo Santo, where the dead rest beneath roses in holy earth shipped from Jerusalem. At last, after working long years in divers cities and getting much gold, he longed to see once more the good city of Arezzo, his mother. The men of Arezzo had not forgotten how Spinello, in his younger days, being enrolled in the confraternity of Santa Maria della Misericordia, had visited the sick and buried the dead in the plague of 1383. They were grateful to him beside for having his works spread their fame of their city all over Tuscany. For all these reasons they welcomed him with high honours on his return. Still full of vigour in his old age, he undertook important tasks in his native town. His wife would tell him, "You are rich, Spinello. Do you rest and leave younger men to paint instead of you? It is meet a man should end his days in a gentle religious quiet. It is tempting God to be for ever raising new and worldly monuments, mere heathen towers of Babel. Quit your colours and your varnishes, Spinello, or they will destroy your peace of mind." So the good dame would preach, but he refused to listen. For his one thought was to increase his fortune and renown. Far from resting on his laurels, he arranged a price with the wardens of Sant'Agnolo for a history of St. Michael that was to cover all the choir of the church and contain an infinity of figures. Into this enterprise he threw himself with extraordinary ardour. Rereading the parts of Scripture that were to be his inspiration, he set himself to study deeply every line and every word of these passages. Not content with drawing all day long in his workshop, he persisted in working both at bed and board, while at dusk, walking below the hill on whose brow Arezzo proudly lifts her walls and towers, he was still lost in thought. And we may say the story of the archangel was already limned in his brain when he started to sketch out the incidents in red chalk on the plaster of the wall. He was soon done tracing these outlines. Then he fell to painting, above the high altar, the scene that was to outshine all the others in brilliancy. For it was his intent therein to glorify the leader of the hosts of heaven for the victory he won before the beginning of time. Accordingly, Spinello represented St. Michael fighting in the air against the serpent with 7 heads and 10 horns, and he figured with delight in the bottom part of the picture the prince of the devils, Lucifer, under the semblance of an appalling monster. The figures seemed to grow to life of themselves under his hand. His success was